sitting in the Tower of London right now, behind bulletproof glass, is a 105-carat diamond that does not belong to Britain. It was mined in India. It was owned by Indian emperors for over 700 years. It was taken from an 11-year-old boy who had no choice but to sign it away at the end of a war his kingdom had just lost. That boy was Maharaja Duleep Singh. The diamond was the Koh-i-noor. The year was 1849. Since that day, India has asked for it back every single decade. Every single request has been refused. And when India's own government was asked in court to formally demand its return, they said something that made every Indian watching catch their breath. They said it was a gift. This is the story of the most controversial diamond in the world, and the real reason Britain will never give it back. The Kohinoor, meaning Mountain of Light in Persian, is believed to have been mined in the Golconda mines of present-day Andhra Pradesh, India, sometime in the 13th century. In its original uncut form, it weighed an extraordinary 793 carats, making it one of the largest diamonds ever found in human history. For the next 500 years, the Kohinoor passed through the hands of the most powerful rulers on earth. The Mughal Emperor Babur acquired it in the 16th century, calling it so valuable that its value could feed the entire world for 2.5 days. It passed to Shah Jahan, the man who built the Taj Mahal, who placed the Kohinoor in his legendary peacock throne. In 1739, the Persian conqueror Nadir Shah invaded Delhi and looted the peacock throne. He took the Kohinoor back to Persia. According to legend, when he first saw its true brilliance in full light, he exclaimed, "Koh-i-noor, Mountain of Light," and that name has stayed ever since. After passing through Afghan rulers, the diamond eventually reached the Punjab warrior king Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the Lion of Lahore, founder of the Sikh Empire. He wore it strapped to his arm. He considered it the most prized possession of his kingdom. He wanted it buried with him when he died. That wish was never granted. When Ranjit Singh died in 1839, the Sikh Empire began to weaken. The British East India Company had been watching, waiting. In 1845, the Anglo-Sikh Wars began. The British won. Punjab was annexed by the East India Company in 1849 under the Treaty of Lahore. And buried in the terms of that treaty was a single clause that would change history forever. Clause 3 read, the gem called the Koh-i-noor, which was taken from Shah Suja-ul-Mulk by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, shall be surrendered by the Maharaja of Lahore to the Queen of England. The person who signed this treaty was Maharaja Duleep Singh. He was 11 years old, an 11-year-old child, separated from his mother, his kingdom taken, his treasury emptied, was made to sign away the most famous diamond in the world. Historical evidence points to the diamond being included in the treaty specifically on the insistence of the East India Company. It was not offered willingly. It was demanded as a condition of surrender. The diamond was then cut down from its original 186 carats to 105 carats by British jewelers, destroying nearly half its original weight in the process, because they felt the original cut was not brilliant enough for European tastes. They did not just take it. They changed it, permanently, to suit themselves. Before we go further, there is something about the Kohinoor that the British royal family takes very seriously. The curse. According to a Hindu text from 1306, the Kohinoor carries a deadly curse that specifically targets men. The text reads, "He who owns this diamond will own the world, but will also know all its misfortunes. Only God or a woman can wear it with impunity." Every male ruler who ever owned the Kohinoor faced catastrophic misfortune. Nadir Shah was assassinated. Afghan rulers who held it were overthrown. Maharaja Ranjit Singh's empire collapsed after his death. Duleep Singh, the boy who signed it away, spent his entire life in exile, estranged from his homeland, dying in Paris in poverty at 55. The British royal family, who openly dismiss most superstitions, have embedded the Koh-i-noor exclusively in crowns worn by female monarchs. Queen Victoria wore it. Queen Mary wore it. The Queen Mother wore it. No British king has ever worn it. Not one. They say they do not believe in the curse. Their actions suggest otherwise. Since India gained independence in 1947, the demand for the Koh-i-noor's return has never stopped. In 1947, the Indian government formally requested its return. Refused. In 1953, at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth, India asked again. Refused. In 2010, British Prime Minister David Cameron visited India and was asked directly about returning the diamond. He said, "If you say yes to one, you suddenly find the British Museum empty." He was not wrong about the implications. But he was admitting something important. Britain knows it is sitting on stolen property from across the entire world. And if it returns one thing, it has to answer for everything else. A group of Bollywood stars and businessmen formed a group called Mountain of Light, the English translation of Kohinoor, and instructed lawyers to begin legal proceedings at the British High Court. India's Supreme Court heard a case filed by an NGO demanding the return. And then the Indian government's own Solicitor General stood up in court and said something extraordinary. He said the Kohinoor was not forcibly taken or stolen. He said it was a gift. The outrage in India was immediate. An 11-year-old boy, forced to sign a peace treaty at the end of a war his kingdom had lost. A gift. The Maharaja Duleep Singh Memorial Trust, which commemorates that same 11-year-old boy, called the government's position a betrayal of history. Britain's official position has never changed. The Kohinoor was legally acquired under the Treaty of Lahore. It was a gift, not theft. There are no legal grounds for its return. But here is what that position does not acknowledge. The treaty was signed by a child, under military occupation. After a war the child's kingdom had lost, with no legal representation, with no choice whatsoever. In any modern court of law, a contract signed by an 11-year-old under duress after a military defeat would be immediately voided. But international law on cultural property does not work that way. The 1970 UNESCO Convention on Stolen Cultural Property, which Britain has signed, only applies to objects taken after 1970. The Koh-i-noor was taken in 1849. It is legally outside the scope of every modern restitution framework. Britain knows this. This is precisely why they keep saying there are no legal grounds for return. They are technically correct. Under current law, the real reason Britain will never return it isn't legal. It is political. If Britain returns the Koh-i-noor to India, Greece immediately demands the Elgin marbles. Egypt demands its artifacts. Nigeria demands the Benin bronzes. Every country that was ever colonized by Britain lines up with a list of things that were taken. The British Museum would be emptied. The Tower of London would lose its most famous exhibit. Centuries of colonial history would have to be officially acknowledged as theft. The Kohinoor is not just a diamond, it is a door, and Britain will never open it. The Kohinoor sits today in the Tower of London, set in the crown made for the Queen Mother in 1937, on public display, behind bulletproof glass, visited by millions of tourists every year. Most of those tourists do not know it was taken from an 11-year-old boy. Most do not know an entire empire was dismantled to acquire it. Most do not know that every man who ever owned it faced catastrophic ruin. The Indian government continues to say it will explore ways and means of obtaining a satisfactory resolution. Britain continues to say there are no legal grounds for its return. And the diamond continues to sit in London, 7,500 kilometers from the mines where it was born, 170 years after it was taken, as the most glittering symbol of everything colonialism took and never gave back. An 11-year-old boy, a peace treaty at the end of a war, a single clause demanding a diamond. That is how the most famous gem in human history left India. Not as a gift, not willingly, but because a child had no choice. 170 years later, India is still asking. Britain is still refusing, and the Kohinoor is still in London. If this made you angry, it should. Subscribe and hit the bell. New story on Buried Chronicles every week, the stories that powerful people would rather you never heard. See you next week.